everybody, welcome or welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Deea, and today I want to wrap up the end of the reads in April. I've already covered the first half of April, but I haven't covered the second. So I will try to link the other review videos down below. But let's get to these books that I managed to finish towards the end of April. Okay, so I pulled up my story graph because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything. So let me just really quick run over the books. I'm just going to tell you the titles of the books that I read that I've already reviewed in those other videos, so you can go back and watch them if there's something here that you want to hear more about. I read Absolute Surrender by Andrew Murray and New Seeds of Contemplation by Thomas Merton. Both of those were for Lent. Then I also read O Pioneers and My Antonia. Those are by Willa Cather. And I did not review O Pioneers in my video. I just mentioned it because it was for Beautiful Minutia's Patreon, and we have our discussion about it in just a couple of days. And so I didn't want to talk about it on my video, but I will try to review it later on, maybe along with a couple of other Willa Cather, because I think I'm going to read the third one in this Frontiers series that Willa Cather did called Song of the Lark. And so I'm going to try to read that one, and then maybe I'll review those three together in a video so that you get my review of all three of them. How to Stand Up to a Dictator, Book, Line, and Sinker, An Immense World, Revelations of Divine Love, Dinners with Ruth, Kingdom of Copper, which is the second book in the Daevabad trilogy, and Heir of Novron, which is the last book in the Rhyria Revelations. So it looks like I finished Jade War on the 15th, and Jade War is the second book in the Greenbone Saga. This is by Fonda Lee, and I also finished this month Jade Legacy. So I finished out the trilogy. Jade War was probably my least favorite in the trilogy. It had a lot more graphic sexual content than I was expecting. The first one had mentions of things, but it didn't get graphic in any kind of a way. And Jade Legacy also had some graphic sexual content that I was hoping wasn't going to be there. I thought maybe we would go back to the way that things were in the first book, and it didn't really do that. I loved the wrap up to Jade Legacy. I liked the way that the series ended. I did not, however, end up loving the series, basically because of the language and the graphic sexual content that I felt like I just kept needing to skip. Nonetheless, I did finish it. It has been read. I can check it off of my list as a series that is now finished up. Overall, I would probably give the series a B, averaging out Jade City, Jade War, Jade Legacy. I would probably give it a B overall. The next one that I finished up was Empire of Gold. This is the third book in the Daevabad trilogy, and what a trilogy. What an amazing ride this trilogy was. I thoroughly loved it. I read this with Jack from Spread Book Joy, and both of us had the most amazing time. We are currently reading River of Silver, which is kind of like a follow-up to the trilogy that just has some kind of side characters in it that we didn't learn a whole lot about. And so these are kind of like little stories of them so that we can make some better connections. And both of us are very excited to be reading it. So Empire of Gold did pretty much everything that I was hoping was going to happen in the series. And there were still some complete surprises, and there were still some things that ended with questions. So we're hoping also that River of Silver gives us a few more answers to those questions. But man, what an amazing end to a series. I jokingly said to Jack at the end of our read of Empire of Gold, I jokingly said, "Essay Chakraborty for president," because just the way that she took this whole political situation and made it so real and so identifiable, and yet gave some very concrete answers that they were working toward, but also the struggles of working towards those things, trying to turn a ship when you have a very small rudder, and it takes a long time to do that. And so it was just very, very good. We really enjoyed it. I highly recommend the trilogy. Then I read the last Mapmaker, and this is by Christina Soontornvat, and it was a recommendation from Tiffany over at Beautiful Minutia. She read it during middle grade March, and as soon as I heard that she liked it, I went ahead and put a hold on it at the library, but it didn't come in time for middle grade March, so I read it in April. This one I really, really enjoyed. It's a fantasy adventure. It was up for a Newbery Award and it did not win. So it is about a young girl whose father is a con man, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So she's trying to kind of throw off her past, throw off the constraints. She wants to live her dreams, and so she signs up to go on this expedition, and she goes out of her way to make sure that people don't really know who she is or who her father is. She just kind of has to weigh the cost of some of the dreams that she has and weigh the cost of secrets and whether ultimately that cost is worth it. And it was really well done. I'm kind of sad that it didn't win a Newbery. Then I read another middle grade, also one that didn't come in time for middle grade March, so I read it in April. And this one is called Wildoak, and it's by C.C. Harrington. And it is about a young girl who has a stutter. So she is sent away by her father, who has some PTSD from being in the war. And she is sent away to her grandfather's house, her mother's father, and finding her voice, whether or not that voice is perfect, whether or not that voice is smooth, especially when it comes to speaking for others who don't seem to be able to speak for themselves. And for her, this is in the form of animals. When she is speaking to animals, she has no stutter at all. And so while she is at her grandfather's house, she encounters a creature and she begins to speak for this animal. She speaks out about people being afraid of something and not understanding why they're afraid of it, and just going to bat basically to make sure that this animal is not killed and that it has a chance at a life, that it was already had wrongly been accused of things, had wrongly been put in the place where it is even. So it was a lovely book as well. I don't think it was quite as well written, quite as well developed. I really enjoyed this one. It's just not a book that's probably going to stick with me quite as much. The next book is The Return of Tarzan, and I read this with Dave and Olive from Book Blather, and we really enjoyed this book, but it was one of those that I expected the first book to be more like this book was. So the first book was a real surprise. I ended up thinking, wow, this is a classic for a reason. Like, this is really well written. It has really well developed characters. The love story is a little over the top, but it wasn't, it was just amazing the way that it moved along at a little clip, but you didn't feel like you were missing out on anything. You didn't have to suspend disbelief for things. I'm sorry about all the background noise, you guys. And there's just stuff going on out in the rest of the apartment. So anyway, I really, really enjoyed this still. It was just that this one required much more of a suspending of beliefs. It was superhero-esque. Tarzan could do no wrong at all. There was one time where several people kind of came at him, and it was in the civilized world. It wasn't in the jungle. And he basically killed or maimed every single person that came after him, and yet he suffered zero consequences for that. And so there was some suspensions of belief in this, but it was still fabulous as far as just the storyline went. It was so much fun, and it was definitely more Pulp Fiction. Dave and I are going to try to read the next one together. If it's like this one was, I probably will say, okay, I've read 3 books in this series. I think I can be done. But if it's like the first one was, I don't know, I might need to get some more Tarzan books. Highly recommend the series so far. Both of them have been just wonderful. Then Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia and I read the first book in the Arc of the Scythe by Neal Shusterman called Scythe. And this was a surprise as well. I thought I would probably like it just from the premise, but I've never read a Neal Shusterman before. This was the first one that I've ever read. And I was amazed at how much I liked this book. Now, it is a YA, and there is a little bit of an awkward, I like her, does he like me, kind of thing going on, and just some weird adolescent kind of stuff discussed. But for the most part, those were very brief moments, and for the most part, it was just about this world in the future where the human race has conquered death and conquered having to even be sick. There's no sickness, there's no death. And so we have also decided that that cannot be the way things are for the rest of history. We have to be able to still have death. And so therefore, we have decided that we need scythes. And these are basically murderers, but they call it gleaning. And it is about two apprentices that have been chosen to become scythes. And just that whole experience and the way that it all works out. And it had twists and turns. It had surprises. It was a really, really great book for discussion about what this really means to our world, and both, you know, physically, mentally, scientifically, what it means spiritually to us as a human race. And it was fascinating. So I really enjoyed it. This was an A read for me. It didn't go up into the A+ category thanks to the adolescence of it. But for me, this was a strong A. And I think probably for Tiffany as well. We both really enjoyed it. We will be moving on to the second book in the trilogy this month. Okay, the next book that I finished was Read It and Weep. This is by Jenn McKinley. It's number 4 in the Library Lovers Cozy Mystery Series. And I'm reading these with Michelle from Books Cause Insomnia. And we are just loving this setting, these friends. We love most of the premises of the books and the way that they come about. This one actually completely surprised both of us. I've figured out kind of what's going on before we get to the end with the other 3 books, but with this last one, it was a complete surprise to me. I had no idea that it was going to end that way. I still kind of knew who the killer was, but ultimately did not see the ending coming the way that it ended. It was great. And now we are picking up the next book. So we're on book 5 in the series. I'm not sure how many there are. They're like 12 or 13, I think. And we're just so happy to be back in this little town in Connecticut, right on the bay. This last one actually included a play by Shakespeare, and Michelle has decided that she wants to read that play. And so that was really fun too, was just to kind of have that aspect of it. The next one that I finished was The Keeper 6. This was by Kate Elliott. It's a little tiny novella. It's probably, I don't know, 150 pages or so. I had bought a copy because I couldn't get it very quickly any other way, and I was reading it with Jack from Spread Book Joy, Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot, and Gemma from Gemma Books. And we decided that we were going to read a little tiny one because the last one that the 3 of us read together was Tagana, and it was not successful. And so we thought, well, let's pick a short one so that we don't have very much of a commitment if we don't like it. And it's a good thing that we did, because we did not like this book. I don't think there was a single one of us that felt like it was just, yeah, it was so odd. Okay, I felt like I was reading like a comic strip where you were getting these little squares with pictures and a few words in them, and or you were just seeing the setting, you know, square after square after square after square of the setting. And then the characters themselves felt unreal. They felt like they were comics themselves. So we were in that world. Somebody else likened it to a role play video game. And you were listening to the characters give you these little blurbs, and then seeing all this stuff happen in this world, and then hearing some more little blurbs. And I think every single one of us felt like she was trying to pack too much into this little tiny novella, like a 500 or 600 page book, trying to condense it down into this little tiny book. And it didn't work. It just didn't work. It's a portal fantasy. It's a little sci-fi in that they end up in this outer space kind of realm. But it's fantasy in the fact that there are these different races that you can portal to the realms of, and there are rules about portaling into these places. There are rules about what can be done and what can't be done, and there's this like kind of scourge enemy in this realm. But we never were told the whys, and we were never told the absolutes of what would happen, you know, if these things were. It was just hard. It was hard to read because of the fact that we all were just, we just felt unenlightened the whole time. So I do have my copy of Keeper 6, which I got at a very discounted rate. I think it's normally around $18 or $19, and I got it for $9. So if anybody would like this book, please let me know down in the comments, and we'll try to arrange something so that I can get this book off to you. If you want to pay that $9 back to me and buy this book, I would be happy to send it to you, because otherwise it's just gonna go off to, you know, the used bookstore or something for credit, because I just, no. The next book that I finished was Paradise Falls. This is another book for the BookTube Prize, so I can't talk about it yet. I will tell you what the book is about, though. It is about the massive poisoning of a town in the United States by a chemical company by Niagara Falls. And the mamas that banded together to get retribution for what was happening to their children and to their families. So that is what it is about, but I can't say anything more. So then I finished Garden Maker, and I've been reading this basically since February, and I've just been picking it up here and there as the mood hits me, because it's basically a how-to book. It's a wonderful how-to book, but it talks about, you know, your soil and the amendments and the tools that are good to use and the types of flowers that do well in these different types of soil and companion planting and just all of that. And so I picked it up a little at a time and just read through it and made little notes and did all of that. And this was from my daughter for Christmas, and I just loved it. Loved it. I'm so glad that I have it, that I can go back and refer to it whenever I want to. And I'm sorry, this is by Christie Purifoy. She wrote another book that is a little less of a how-to, that is also very, very good about gardens. We're coming to an end. So the last book is The Boneshard Emperor, and this is book 2 in the Drowning Empire. The first book was The Boneshard Daughter, and the third book for this is out now. It's fine. I mean, what I said, I think, is, you know, they're perfectly serviceable characters as far as getting the story across, but it's just very okay. It's meh for me. That's not to say it's that way for everybody. Obviously a lot of people like it. Basically this one is about the daughter of the first one becoming emperor of the land, and just kind of what that means for this land that she is now trying to be emperor of, and how it all holds together, and is she needed to hold it together, and just all these other things. So it's political, but for me it wasn't political in a good way. It felt petty to me. It felt very juvenile, and I didn't believe there's a little love story that's in there, and I didn't believe it. It didn't feel like it ever should have come about, and yet it somehow is. So anyway, I'm not going to be going on in the series. So I gave this one a B-, C+ right in there, but that's it. So I think in total I had like 23 books for the month. I'm happy with that number, elated with that number, and really looking forward to May. May is my birthday month, and it's also the readathon that we are hosting, MontgomerMay. If you haven't heard about that, I will make sure to link that down in the description box for you, so you can go and watch our videos and find out. But that is with Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, and Chelsea from Voyage of a Time Wanderer, and Courtney from Courtney Reads, and Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. It's just the perfect thing for right now in this season that we are in, and we're all just very excited about it. We all love Ellen Montgomery. We hope that you'll join us in that. And like I said, it's my birthday month, so I'm very happy to be in this space with Ellen Montgomery. All right, you guys, that's everything from me. I hope that you have a wonderful May ahead. I'd love to know what your favorite read of April was, and I will see you in another video very soon. Thanks everyone. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to.